Larry Schweinhart is today's speaker, joined by his daughter, Tara Hardy. Larry's career was as an educational psychologist, specializing in early childhood development at HighScope in Ypsilanti. Tara is Director of Early Learning for Detroit PBS. Larry.
I used to be HighScope's president. I promoted child-centered learning and spent years telling policymakers about the Perry Preschool study. Thanks to the teachers at Perry, this single program has become a landmark in early childhood education that shows just how much it is capable of. Here are the beginnings of that story. Our story begins with escaped slaves reaching Ypsilanti on the Underground Railroad. Ypsilanti was their path to freedom. Some stayed in Ypsilanti, fearing they would be caught by escaped slave trackers. Perry kids were their descendants, and their music was gospel music. Three men had a lot to do with shaping the Perry Preschool Project. Dave Weichert resonated with other educators' ideas. His early summer camp plan-do-review experience shaped his life. His focus became HighScope's focus. As special ed director, he became outraged at the practice of holding African American kids back several grades. He and his friends planned a special program at Perry School, and he took a job as Ypsilanti Special Education Director, so his summers were free. Despite the superintendent's misgivings, he okayed it. Gene Beatty, Michigan's first African American principal, contended with segregation and rose above it. He won medals jumping hurdles, but lost out on a promising Olympic career when he knocked a hurdle down. Because of him, Perry was at the heart of Ypsilanti's business district. Ypsilanti's Head Start Center is named after him, and he has a bust and memorial at Perry School. He and Dave Weichert both wanted to help local kids, so they joined up at Perry, where Gene brought Dave's project into the community and became its guardian. Van Loggins was the primary interviewer of the Perry Project participants. He was friends with a lot of them, and if he was not, he became friends with them because of his engaging way of doing interviews. When we brought in the Chicago team to do interviews later over Van's protests, they asked the participants if they had been interviewed before. They did not even think they had, because Van was not so much their interviewer as their friend having a conversation with them. In 1962, Dave Weichert started a special education study at the Perry School that became known as the Perry Preschool Study. Gene Beatty, having a passion to help his students, really sold the program to the African American community. This allowed the parents to be less hesitant about the young Dave Weichert. The study was to figure out how the program affected young African American kids who were less familiar with the majority culture. The study began with 128 kids randomly divided into two groups. One group had morning preschool, while the other group did not, stayed home. 4 teachers at a time taught them. They kept tabs on their program weekly by keeping track of each kid. The teachers initiated a few activities and let kids initiate others, a lot of others. We have been tracking these kids ever since. As a result of the program, the kids were set on a better track of life. Here are some new findings. In recent years, we teamed up with Jim Heckman, the Nobel Prize-winning economist at the University of Chicago, and his colleagues to reanalyze the Perry Preschool data. When they did that, the findings were the same. They also found that the Perry program worked best with the poorest African Americans. Here's the bottom line without all the fancy statistics. If you went to Perry Preschool, you had a better education, you got a better job, and you became a better parent. You had fewer health problems and less stress. You got into fewer fights. Overall, you became a better person. The program rubbed off on your older brothers and sisters as well. They were more likely to graduate from high school and get a good job. And because you were a better, more responsible parent, your sons and daughters had more successful lives. For a preschool investment of just $7,500 a year, we all got back $440,000, 17 times as much. The lessons of the Perry Preschool are not just for teachers. They are for every parent and grandparent, all of us, and anybody who has contact with kids. The basic lesson is that you can and should be raising kids not just to have cognitive skills, but also to have social skills and good character, with virtues like wanting to accomplish things and caring about other people. For centuries, people learned by doing. Fathers taught their sons how to till the soil, while mothers taught their daughters how to tend the home. Young farmers learned from their dads, blacksmiths from more experienced ones, and even princes learned from the kings who fathered them. The Industrial Revolution changed everything. No longer did fathers tutor their sons. Instead, teachers came to teach them reading, writing, and arithmetic. In a sense, the Perry Preschool approach is going back to the old approach of learning by doing rather than learning by instruction. Learning social skills and building character rather than only learning reading, writing, and arithmetic. Here's a description of what a day at the Perry Preschool was like. Jimmy, age 4, clutched his mother's hand. He had seen the world tell him he wouldn't make it. But Miss Helen's classroom was full of blocks, books, and choices. "What do you want to build today?" she asked. For the first time, Jimmy felt like his ideas mattered. Mary, only 3, was shy. She didn't speak much at home, but in the classroom she found her voice. The teachers encouraged her to make decisions, plan projects, and solve problems. Henry, age 4, had already been in trouble at school, but here he learned to think before acting. When a disagreement arose over blocks, Miss Helen guided him to talk it out rather than hit. He felt respected, and in turn he respected himself. The preschool didn't just teach letters and numbers, it taught thinking. Teachers visited homes, talked to parents, and helped families nurture their children's learning. Slowly, little changes in behavior and confidence began to ripple outward. By their teens, the differences were clear. Jimmy was excelling in school and avoiding trouble. The researchers followed each child meticulously, tracking grades, arrests, and social behavior. The children who attended the Perry Preschool program were already outperforming the ones who had not just in academics, but in life skills, resilience, and making good choices. All in all, the Perry Preschool program has become more than a preschool program. It's become an important lesson on how to educate and raise healthy, productive kids. And to help you think about how to raise healthy, productive kids of your own, here's my daughter, Tara Hardy.
As his daughter, I have been to this room a few times, and one of the things that I've felt in this room is I've felt very welcomed. I've felt like everyone here is very respectful and that this is a warm and loving environment. So I feel like we're speaking to the crowd right now. But as you think about how this applies to you and whether you want to stay here and ask questions at the end, we're talking about a groundbreaking study that was done 50 plus years ago that had a quality program that focused on relationships, focused on character building, validating emotions, which I heard in the sermon earlier. Think about the kids in your life. Are you a parent? Are you a grandparent? Do you have kids next door? Do you see kids when you go to the grocery store? You are part of a village that is raising the next generation, and how you interact with these children really matters and makes a difference. So the Perry Preschool study, like my dad said, we invested into these children $7,500 per person to give them a good foundation educational start with positive relationships, validated feelings, problem-solving skills, and we monitored these kids against kids that didn't have that stuff. And the results were phenomenal. So how can you apply this in your life as a neighbor, as a parent, as a grandparent? Stay after for questions and we can help you with that.